He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that continues every single day to celebrate the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. I want to thank you for listening to Coast Vue and engaging with Coast Vue. Our numbers continue to improve dramatically, and we really appreciate you listening on SuperTalk 103.1 or SuperTalk TV or SuperTalk Facebook pages, either the Gulf Coast Facebook page or the SuperTalk Mississippi Facebook page, our SuperTalk YouTube page, or any of your favorite podcasts. We really appreciate you engaging with Coast Vue. I have a couple of numbers I want to share with you. One of the cool things about having sort of a digital footprint is you get to evaluate the analytics of the audience, and you might be interested to know this. If you look at the people who are engaged around Coast Vue, 44.93% of them are men, 55.07% of them are women, and they really skew from 25 to 65. I would say some are slightly older, but a good spread in terms of ages. And here's the interesting thing, the location. Where are these people? Well, Gulfport is number 1, Biloxi's number 2, Ocean Springs, Long Beach, Pass Christian, Sosha, and then get this, Jackson is next, Madison is next, and then D'Iberville, Pascagoula, and then towns across Mississippi. So it's very interesting to see that the audience is certainly coastal Mississippi, but goes way beyond coastal Mississippi. I think that's terrific. Post engagement in the last 30 days is up 16%. Reactions are up 37%. Comments are up 40%. Video views is up unbelievably high. It's a number that you wouldn't believe if I shared it with you. But we're having terrific engagement of our videos, and so I want to thank you for being part of our growth and helping us do well and contributing to our success. Hey, last week I shared a quote from Walter Anderson. It was this: "I live and have my being. I live and have my being in a world of space and forms which have color and shape. Consciousness of this means being alive." Walter Anderson was one of the South's most elusive artists. And Julian Rankin, who's the executive director of the Walter Anderson Museum, and I had a long conversation last week about this sacred connection that exists between the people of coastal Mississippi, the incredible beauty and nature of the environment we're able to enjoy, and the vitality of the communities that make up coastal Mississippi. It's a really deep connection. We live in paradise. And it's artists like Walter Anderson who spent a lifetime actually helping us see and feel that. In so many ways, this describes Coast Vue, the strong belief that people with passion can change our world here in coastal Mississippi for the better. And one man who I know for a fact believes that is John Hairston, the CEO of Hancock Whitney, who's joining me this morning. Good morning, John. How are you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Ricky. Great to be on the show again. Can't believe it's been since July.
Yeah,
since I've been on the show. It's been a long time.
Well, we talk a lot, off the air, so we're good friends and we stay in touch. But it has been July. But you heard what I said about this sacred connection that exists between coastal Mississippi, our coastal sense of place, and the vitality here. This is a special place, isn't it?
It really is. And listening to the numbers as you were warming up for the show, and as a banker, 55%. Women in your audience, most of the decision makers on banking services are actually a woman in the household. So it's a shocking percentage that I know my marketing people would pay attention to what you just said. That was interesting. But you're talking about the connection, Ricky. There's really 4 kind of big MSAs that dominate the Mississippi economy. The coastal MSA is one of them. So the fact that Jackson and Madison are right there in the top 5 of participations doesn't surprise me because of the interconnectivity economically between the coastal business community and the rest of the state. In particular, Hattiesburg, the Jackson MSA, and the Mississippi counties there just under, south of Memphis. So a lot of connectivity there that's very important.
Well, before we get to what's going on in the bank these days and amazing trends that have been unleashed by the pandemic, let's stay on the Mississippi thing for just a second. Mississippi has done a really good job of reopening the economy and addressing, especially more recently, things like the vaccination process, et cetera. And it really shows in the numbers, doesn't it?
It does. When we talk about the Mississippi economy and things we'd like to have better, our typical concern is always just the size of the economy. It's a little bit of an anemic economy relative to the other states we compete with for employer and residential interest. But one thing that you never have to complain about in Mississippi, and especially the coast, is resiliency. That when things get bad, you can count on a better than expected return, both in pace and size. And the recovery of the economy here has been startling. I mean, the GDP hit that in the first half of the year for Mississippi was egregious, but the second half we got almost all of it back. And so if we look at quarterly GDP forecasts, and I'm quoting February numbers here, March numbers for Mississippi will be due here really in the next 3 or 4 days. I'm sorry I don't have something more current for you. But we'll be looking at GDP numbers that average out about double quarterly GDP growth that we had in 2019. So when we look at 19, we were bouncing up and down between expansion and contraction on a quarterly rate. But in 2021 and all the way through the back half of 2022, we'll be better than 1% quarterly expansion. So on top of the recovery we had in 2020, it really is a good story. So again, that resiliency word always seems to come about when we talk about tough hits and how we get back up.
We know how to bounce back. It's in our DNA. And our ability to sort of evaluate the pandemic and what are the best steps to go forward. Of course, the governor had the Restart Mississippi committee. You were part of that. And a lot of smart people have had their arms around this never before, dealt with situation. And it's a big deal to look at how Mississippi ranks relative to the rest of the nation in terms of our economy. It's really incredible. It's a great story. Hey, look, one of the things we talk about on this show all the time is the trends. Trends that were in place before the pandemic has been sped up by the pandemic. You and I talked a little bit about that before, but when you think about the banking community, it's very true. I mean, you look at the amount of how consumer banking behaviors have changed and the adoption of mobile banking. And then I'm sure that's probably offset by a decline in branch traffic or whatever. But you're very strategic in the way you think about things like this. The pandemic really has had a significant impact on banking trends, hasn't it?
It has. Digital adoption, about 4 years of expected additional penetration with digital banking, all happened inside about 2 quarters. Out of necessity. And so we opened our branch lobbies back up after Memorial Day and had a lot of traffic during that time, but the digital adoption rates didn't go down. So people continue to use both of the primary banking delivery channels for their conversations, both servicing and for new accounts.
Wow, that's incredible. So, hey, when you look at sort of the banking industry just as a whole today, as it relates to reserves and it relates to just responding to the pandemic and where it goes from here, especially thinking about the economy beginning to light up, especially in Mississippi, the way you just talked about. What's your state of affairs these days?
Well, there's a lot of things changing about banking because the economy and where business decisions are made is also changing. I mean, if you could and this is a delicate subject, but if you look at our country and where wealth has been concentrated, where financial decisions and business decisions have been made, not too many decades ago, it was generally men and generally white men that made all those decisions. That has dramatically changed to the better over the last several decades as more persons of color have taken on significant positions in very large companies. I was looking yesterday at the number of Black general counsels we have in Fortune 100 companies. So the country, while we're not there yet, we haven't achieved all that we need to achieve. Progress has been made, and I think the greatest benefit of some of the social conversations and difficulties we've had in the last couple of years, and the pandemic exacerbated that because people had time to think about it and talk about it, has been the fact that these conversations, while courageous, have also been much more comfortable for people to have. Men and women, Black and white, Hispanic, Asian, especially focused on Asian populations now after the tragedy that happened in Atlanta. But that all that conversation has kind of highlighted the fact that the economy and where decisions are made is changing. And I think maybe 50 or 100 years from now, we'll be talking about these types of things in a rearview mirror because we've achieved parity and equality and justice across all sectors of the community. But right now, we're still in a state of change. And so as a bank, and I think as a banking industry, paying attention to that and getting in front of it and advancing topics like financial literacy, advancing topics like making sure that we're paying attention to all sizes of business and businesses and communities that might have been underserved in the past has been a dramatic focus, both of our company and the industry, in ensuring that we lift everybody up, kind of get to that parity. So it may not happen in my lifetime to where there's no difference, but I think it's going to happen sooner than we thought, maybe than we thought 5 or 10 years ago.
I definitely feel change, and I do think I agree with you completely that it's for the better, and it will help coastal Mississippi. It'll help Mississippi. So, hey, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with John Hairston, talk about a new port director that's been announced. You can talk a little bit more about that. And, we'll talk about, how's Hancock Whitney doing these days. We'll be back after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. This is always an opportunity for me to not only visit with a friend, but someone I really admire as a leader. John Hairston from Hancock Whitney is just an incredible leader, not just along the coast or in Mississippi, but throughout the region. And you always get tremendous insights visiting with him. So, John, let's come back to, you mentioned just before we went on the air something about the port. Why don't you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the port, we're talking about the Mississippi State Port at Gulfport is a big economic driver for really the coast and the state because of the amount of import-export activity that comes up and down the railroad to be dispersed or moved around from the port. And Jonathan Daniels, who really did a terrific job as the leader of the port, left a few months ago. And today, literally, while we were filming the show today, the replacement, who is John Nass from Maine, has been announced. And I'd hope to get him down to do a cameo on the show for you, so your listeners and viewers would have a chance to meet him and hear what he has to say. But the presser is actually underway at this moment, and this will be, I guess, we'll be showing this film on tomorrow. But he's really a terrific guy. Did a tour of Iraq. So his patriotism is obviously without question. Did not a term, but served in the Senate as both an attorney, as an appropriations financial counsel to Senator Collins and other places. And so with a military background, a government background, and built the first container port in northern New England, just finished all that. You can imagine raising the funds to do something like that. That background really on paper looks like a perfect fit. The startling thing I think you'll note about him, Ricky, is he looks just like, when I saw his photo, I couldn't help but think I may have loaded the wrong photo because he's a ringer for our mutual friend Joel Carter.
Wow,
just like him. And so I was like, I did a double take and like, did I load the right photo? But I think you'll really enjoy visiting with him and his vision for where we go from here. A lot changed the last 15 years at the port in the post-Katrina recovery, and certainly seeing what will happen in the next few years as we should get the benefit of a lot of those investments will be exciting.
That's good news. The state port of Gulfport is important to us in so many ways. It's such a strategically important area, and the opportunities to grow it and take advantage of, lots of, opportunities are going to unfold as it relates to the port over the coming years is really important. We need someone who gets that. Sounds like he's the kind of guy who can hit the ground running. So, John, what's the latest at Hancock Whitney? How you guys doing?
Well, it's busy. We went through, I think it was July we talked about was last I was on the show. And we were really, I guess, at that point in time, in the middle of digesting what does the pandemic mean, not just for the bank, but for our economies. I mean, a bank is just a reflection of the economies that they operate in, right? It's we don't really have any money. We just keep everybody else's money and then try to match it up with someone that needs to borrow it. That's the same amount of liquidity. So we're really a broker between parties in the community. And so what's happened since the pandemic, I really, Ricky, I would have to say the economy has bounced back. I was hopeful and optimistic when I was on the show in July. I thought that Mississippi was going to do better than most. It's done dramatically better than most and done better than I thought we would expect, primarily because of the resurgence of the hospitality business on the coast. In that July show I mentioned, the occupancy at hotels on the coast was more than I would have expected. And that boom continued, and it's still going. So I would frankly be disappointed if we don't see a very 2019-ish hospitality season this year on the Mississippi coast. And some of that's because the other options are more limited for people that may like to go to Cabo in the summertime. Maybe they're coming to Biloxi. And so it's just a little different than normal. But it's really exciting to see that type of confidence. And it's providing a much needed boost in revenue for both our hotel operators, our gaming establishments, souvenir stores, food and beverage, places people go to enjoy a libation. Overall, and that money flows through the whole community. And so housing values are up 6 to 9% in different parts of the Mississippi coast. Some of that is just a lack of supply, but a lot of it is because when people visit and they like what they see, they consider retiring or relocating here. So we've had good benefit there. Hancock County and Bay St. Louis specifically, may have been the greatest recipient of all of that in the pandemic, because while our neighbors in New Orleans were largely under much more economic restrictions, a big chunk of that population that had knowledge of Bay St. Louis began to spend time there. And so when I drive down the streets in Old Town in Bay St. Louis, I run into people that I know from Mobile, from New Orleans, and from the other places in the coast. So it's just been a terrific opportunity to showcase some of the things we have that a lot of people didn't know about. So
you and I talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but if you think about these trends that we're seeing, one trend around remote work, we saw where Ford Motor Company made an announcement where 30,000 employees worldwide would go to a hybrid approach, working a lot remotely, going in for meetings. Microsoft has done the same thing. My son, who works for Price Waterhouse, is going to be working remotely for the foreseeable future, maybe permanently. Don't know exactly where they stand on that. But what that does is creates an incredible opportunity for coastal Mississippi. Eric Hill from the Center of Entrepreneurship at Mississippi State says that if we can build the kind of places that people who are part of this new economy want to live, we have a real opportunity to fill some gaps in terms of our overall economic diversity and bringing these people here because of all the things you just mentioned. The cost of living is really low relative to others. The standard of living is high. That we're really as we move over the next 2 or 3 years, Mississippi, especially coastal Mississippi, is well positioned to fill some gaps, aren't we?
I think so. The work, remote work and work from home sometimes get used interchangeably, but they're not necessarily the same thing. And so, and I think the jury's still out on where we will finally reach equilibrium, because remote work was kind of forced upon the country and the world by the pandemic. Some chunk of it is likely to stay forever, but finding the balance between productivity and the cost of a skill and safety is really difficult. In fact, this morning before the show started, I was listening to our commercial real estate group talk about the balancing that is going to happen over the next several quarters. While employers may have a smaller percentage of their population in the proverbial office, there may be a lot less density of people. So we may spread things out versus have, the cube farms, that you see in movies sometimes where you have people stacked in really, really tight. People right now just want a little more personal distance. Right. So that takes up more room. So how this all balances out, I think will take a couple, 3 years to really figure out. And so I think the larger employers that are global in nature are trailblazers right now in that subject. And I think the mid-sized companies will end up following, but it'll be very different based on the type of industry that you're in and the part of the country that you operate in.
Well, for people who want to read more about this, I mentioned this yesterday, but on the Microsoft website, they've got a good review of what they call hybrid work. And there's a 2021 work trend index that they put out there that it's got a lot of new data. It's got a lot of research. It's got expert insights. But hybrid work, some from home, some from the office, hybrid work is going to become part of our lexicon going forward. I'm confident of that. And particularly people in the technology arena, they have tremendous latitude to work from different places, and the opportunity for Mississippi within that framework is really positive. Hey, you mentioned you have a deep belief in tourism in coastal Mississippi. You and I worked together on that after the Governor's Commission. We now have 3-county coastal Mississippi tourism effort. Boy, when you think about the role the casinos played and the Hotel Motel Association played and all these others, you sort of mentioned it a minute ago, but man, it is incredible the job they did to operate in this pandemic, isn't it?
It really is, and it took a lot of partnership, and frankly took a lot of courage. I mean, you have to, when you're considering the social concerns people had, and you got to remember back in, say, April or May, you didn't see somebody hardly out for their morning jog without a mask on, right? I mean, because we didn't know what this beast was that we were doing battle with. So as the healthcare community learned more and began exchanging that knowledge with those of us in the private sector, using that knowledge to make alterations to space, to recongregate our staff, to rekindle productivity and get your company back on its feet was different. So in our company, every one of our bank tellers has a plexiglass shield in front of them. I never would have thought of doing that, but as our healthcare and CDC began to publish information, all these little cobbled together ideas, I think frankly resulted in the economy restarting as quickly as it did. If we were all still at home right now, we would be in a deep, deep economic depression. There's not enough money the government can borrow and inject in the economy to make up for people not spending money. And so I think all those safety features really saved the day, along with some courageous decisions to begin. So you remember the day the casinos first opened, and some opened a little faster than others, and it was quite surprising that they were able to operate profitably so quick. But they had to curtail some services that weren't really important to people at that stage of the game. I think people just want to get out of their home.
Yeah.
Go do something, anything.
Well,
but I thought the casinos did a super job, as did the F&B sites, the hotel sites, the cleaning regimens put in place. I don't think that, imagine, we learned after the storm on the coast how to work together, put aside our biases, and figure out ways to do things differently. The whole country did that this time.
In our case, we had done it before, and so the muscles that we were flexing were well honed, and our ability to bounce back, our resiliency, came to fruition once again. And the innovation has been amazing to watch. John, it's been great to visit with you. I look forward to catching up with you soon, buddy.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks for covering some good topics on the show. It's an important one for people on the coast and really throughout the state to listen to, just to hear what's going on, from the mouths of people that are living it. Thanks for your leadership, Ricky. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been John Hairston, the CEO of Hancock Whitney. We'll be back with John McFarland from the Red Cross in just a second.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. We got to talk Jimmy Buffett.
One day at breakfast, he says, I started a new song. He says, about a night and a day in Key West, I played a bar and I got drunk, and coming home, I stepped out of my flip-flop, and I just kept going. I stepped on a beer can. And the next morning, I'm up, and I'm hungover, and I'm trying to make a margarita. I got some shrimp boiling. I can't find the salt. I said, Jimmy, I kind of like this. And he said, yeah, I think I'll call it Margaritaville.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on your local SuperTalk Mississippi station, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I really enjoyed my conversation with John Hairston, the CEO of Hancock Whitney. He's a good friend. We've worked in the community for so many years, and his commitment while building this, really incredible bank and expanding into multiple states, he still stayed very committed to Mississippi and coastal Mississippi. And his ability to multitask is among the best I have ever seen. And I have seen some really good leaders in my many years, and he's one of the best. So now let's switch gears and go to John McFarland. He's the executive director of the Southeast Mississippi chapter of the Red Cross, someone who I used to work with. We worked, in the community together as well. But John, we're lucky to have people like John Hairston here, aren't we?
Yeah, you're going to the other end of the intellectual scale now.
No, not at all.
John, I'll tell you, John is so smart. When he sneezes, I learn something.
Well, he is. I always said about John, because he's an engineer, and CEO. His ability to multitask is, good Lord. His ability to compartmentalize things and remember the details in each segment of the work that he's involved in. He's just a remarkable person, not to mention CEO. So, John, it's great to get caught back up again. It's been a month or two since we've actually met. One of the things I find interesting about the Red Cross is that you guys found a way to operate in the COVID situation because the blood needs of coast hospitals were going to continue to be very significant. Mm-hmm. And you do antibody testing. You have a real insight into sort of where we are as it relates to the antibodies. That would include the vaccine and whatever. But tell people what you do and kind of give them some background, and then what are some of the numbers that you're seeing?
Back shortly after the pandemic grew, back in March of last year, one of the things the Red Cross was tasked with was to start collecting convalescent plasma, which is not something new. We've done it before in Zika virus and others. But basically, when a person's immune system is unable to produce the proteins that needed to develop the antibodies to fight whatever virus that they have, oftentimes they can be helped by getting someone else's antibodies through their plasma. So this was not unusual for Red Cross to be asked to do this. It was just we've never done it before on the scale that we have. So starting March of last year, we've been collecting convalescent plasma from confirmed COVID victims who have fully recovered, and their bodies, their immune systems would have the antibodies needed. And so that's been going on since then. In June of last year, we began testing every blood donation to see if people had the COVID antibodies, which meant that they had been infected, even if they were asymptomatic. In other words, they didn't even know they had the virus. And so between March of last year and the end of February this year, about 7.5% of all the blood donations that Red Cross tested had COVID antibodies, which meant that the donors, whether they knew it or not, had been infected, and their bodies, their immune systems generated those antibodies to stop it. That was helpful information for the health professionals around the country, because it gave them a better idea of how much this virus had spread. That's about twice the number of confirmed cases that we've been looking at. But in March of this year, and that was from over 3.5 million donations that were tested. In March of this year, the first month in March, of the units that were tested, about 20% had the COVID antibodies. A lot of that, I think, is because it was the first time we collected blood from people who had been vaccinated. And of course, naturally, their immune systems would have the COVID antibodies. So, you know, the nation's goal to get to that herd immunity is to get up to about 80% of people that have the antibodies, either because they've had the virus itself or they've had the vaccine. So that's just one little look at it. And keep in mind that the blood donors aren't necessarily a perfect sample of the American population. But just from what that tells us, we're still a good ways away from that level of saturation or that herd immunity that we want to get to. But as fast as they're vaccinating people, the end is in sight, as you were saying earlier in your interview.
Yeah, what I say too, so those are really interesting numbers. And Mississippi, we got about 3 million people in Mississippi. Last week, we actually hit a new sort of hallmark moment benchmark moment where a third of the Mississippi population, 1 million people, have gotten the vaccine. So that's about 33%. And then if you add to that, as you pointed out just a second ago, those who didn't know they have it, who probably had the antibody, that they were asymptomatic, or maybe they had it and they haven't gotten the vaccine yet. Mississippi's doing slightly better than that, but it still is a reminder, as most of my guests and I have discussed, that we're not out of the woods yet. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're not wondering, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? We can actually see it now. But we have to still be diligent. And I think the fastest way to get to where we want to get is to get everybody vaccinated. One of the points we've made multiple times, John, on the show, and you know this well because you're in this line of work, is that a mutation of the coronavirus has a hard time mutating if it can't find a host.
Right.
And so the quickest way to not let mutations get out is to get everybody vaccinated so that there's not a host to receive and enable mutation to occur, so that there's another strain, so to speak, of the coronavirus. Anything else you want to say about that before we switch gears?
Even going back to masks, I've had both my vaccinations, but I still, when I'm out, I still wear a mask. It's inconvenient, and I look forward to having a mask burning sometime soon. But especially if I'm, on the job wearing Red Cross paraphernalia or driving a Red Cross vehicle, I don't want to set a bad example by being out with a mask. But, to do it for another couple of months, it's not going to hurt.
I totally agree. You and I throughout the last year talked about deadly tornadoes hitting Mississippi, and the Easter tornado last year, coming up on a year ago. It's amazing that was a record-breaking tornado. Then St. Patrick's Day, we had another group of tornadoes. What's the latest on what's happening there?
Considering considering what we expected, there were actually 23 touchdowns along that line from southwest Mississippi up through north central Alabama. 23 touchdowns, 5 in Mississippi and 18 in Alabama. And considering that and the force of the winds, because it was not only the tornadoes, but there was heavy hail in the northern part of the state. North of the tornado track, there was some strong straight line winds, and the damage was not as bad as it could have been. Now, if you were one of the people that were affected, it was terrible. But surprisingly, we ended up with about 90 homes in Alabama and Mississippi that were either destroyed or major damage. That's a lot. But when you consider that long track of the storm, it could have been an awful lot worse. And there were, about 80 homes that were destroyed or had major damage, and another 90 with minor damage. So it could have been a lot worse. Now we're going through it again. The forecast for tonight through tomorrow night throughout both states, again, is a lot of rain, a lot of flooding, a lot of high wind gusts, mostly north of us, and possible tornadoes. So we're as ready as we can be.
Well, you guys respond to disasters. That's what you do. And you also help people prepare for disasters.
Yeah.
We've got a hurricane season about to come up. We're in the middle of tornado season. What guidance do you have people about how to help them prepare?
And the bad thing is that this time of year, well, actually April and May, generally, we are giving storm preparation presentations all across the chapter that are sponsored by the cities or the counties or civic organizations, churches. And we're not able to do that in person this year because of COVID, or we haven't been, but we are doing them virtually. But one thing people can do is to just go to redcross.org. That's our website, redcross.org. And one of the drop-down menus is Get Help. Very, very helpful information, and I would encourage people to do that. And a lot of it's things we forget. We know, but we forgot. The things that you wish you had done once the storm hit.
What we can do, what we'll do, coming to the end of this segment, John, when we come back, we'll finish that thought.
Okay.
And we'll also talk about sickle cell anemia, which is a really significant problem still. And there's a high priority for African-American blood donors. I want you to talk more about that. So when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with John McFarland, the Executive Director for the Southeast Chapter of the American Red Cross.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 Exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
When you listen to SuperTalk Mississippi, you become part of a statewide community, a community of knowledgeable, engaged, enlightened, well-informed, hard-working men and women just like you, all eager to see the Magnolia State grow and prosper. There may be some disagreement on how to get there, but the goal remains the same, for each Mississippian to reach their American dream. Thanks for listening and being a part of the conversation on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam, as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Put, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have John McFarland. He's the Executive Director of Southeast Mississippi Chapter of the American Red Cross, someone I worked with for many, many, many years. And when we left, we were talking about disaster preparedness. And boy, we did our share of disaster preparedness at the Sun Herald, didn't we, John?
Yeah. Thank you. Good.
Over the many years. But there are some basic things that people forget. And this is an opportunity for our listeners to kind of take a minute and just remember some of the basics, and especially remember where to go to get more information. Why don't you cover that, John?
Yeah, if they, of course, they can always call us, but if they just go to redcross.org, that's our website, and you can download from there the safety tips, the preparedness tips, how to prepare a kit with the things you're going to need. You know, people will often forget to have their insurance papers or their drug prescriptions, things that they're going to need if they have to evacuate. And that always creates some problems for them. But the big one that most people forget is coming back home after a storm. And, you come back and realize your home is still there, and you just drop your guard and want to get going. And we often find more injuries and more damage created after the storm than during it. People will forget, for example, that when they left the home to evacuate, the power had gone out, and they haven't gone by and turned off the breakers or shut down their power. So when power comes back on, there's that big surge in the house. And especially if it's been raining or flooding, you're liable to have a lot of water that maybe has seeped into through the frame through the walls of the house. So we see a lot of fires. After a heavy rainstorm or after a hurricane, when waters come ashore, the soil is soft, and we often see trees fall long after the hurricane or the tornado has gone through. It just takes a little more breeze to knock that tree down. And the big thing is we find, again, after tornadoes or hurricanes, they tend to blow animals, critters, varmints into the yard that aren't always there. And, you get home and you let the kids go play while you're cleaning up the house, and all of a sudden you got snake bites or spider bites or whatever. So one of the sheets that's on the website is returning from a storm. And there's some really, really helpful hints there.
That's all good information. You can go to the redcross.org website to get more information about that. John, on sickle cell anemia, I remember when I was in paramedic school back in the mid-'70s, and I faced it a couple of times and saw that people who had sickle cell anemia required blood transfusions. If I remember this right, it's a blood disease that affects the red blood cells. It's usually inherited. And the majority of the people who are impacted by sickle cell are African Americans. So you guys have a significant recruiting effort for African American donors. Let's talk more about what that's about.
Yeah, sickle cell anemia, as you said, it affects the red blood cells that makes the cells hard instead of soft, and it makes them sickle shape instead of round, which means it's difficult for the blood to flow properly through the system and carry the oxygen. There is no cure. It is a life-threatening disease. And as you said, it's also painful, and there are medications and treatments that can help with the pain. But they do require blood transfusions, complete transfusions throughout their lives. And to avoid more complications, the best match is someone of the same race and ethnicity. And because about 90% of, and maybe more than 90% of sickle cell patients are African American, then the best match for them is blood from other African Americans. Not every African American donor matches up with them, but that's the biggest pool. It's become a problem for us because blood donations from African Americans have dropped significantly over the past year, partly because as a result of COVID, weather, and other things, a lot of blood drives have been canceled. But more important is that African Americans have a much higher rate of COVID infection. And so it's not that they're not willing to help. It's just because of their COVID infections that makes it difficult for them. So we are working very, very hard to recruit and bring back more African American donors because there are people whose lives are literally dependent upon them getting those transfusions. And on the other side of it, those African American donors who do match well for single cell patients, they give constantly all through the year. They give as quickly as they can come back again and do it again. And it's a pool that we literally rely on to save people's lives, but we've got to grow the pool.
Well, I'm glad that there's a focus on that, John. And if people want to learn more about that subject, they can also go to redcrossblood.org and learn more.
Yes.
One of the, John, we're coming to the end, but how are the campaigns going to get donors, just in general?
They've been good. We've had real good turnout at the blood drives. In fact, this region has actually been a little bit over its goal, but as you know, blood is used within 5 days of being donated. So it's not like we can build up a nice stockpile and go for a while. The other thing that has helped us is because of COVID, and I think you've talked about this on an earlier show as well, non-critical surgeries have been reduced. So as we move out of the pandemic and hospitals are open up to conduct more elective surgeries, the demand for blood is going to grow again. So it's a never-ending battle. But
we're at the end of our time together, John. But anyway, thanks for the update. This terrific information. And again, you can go to the Red Cross Red's website if you want to learn more information. But this has been John McFarland, the Executive Director for the Southeast Mississippi Chapter of the American Red Cross. Thanks, John. Have a great day, buddy.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
You bet. And have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. We got to talk Jimmy Buffett.
One day at breakfast, he says, I started a new song. He says, about a night and a day in Key West, I played a bar and I got drunk, and coming home, I stepped out of my flip-flop, and I just kept going. I stepped on a beer can. And the next morning, I'm up, and I'm hungover, and I'm trying to make a margarita. I got some shrimp boiling. I can't find the salt. I said, Jimmy, I kind of like this. And he said, yeah, I think I'll call it Margaritaville.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on your local SuperTalk Mississippi station, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices. When you listen to SuperTalk Mississippi, you become part of a statewide community, a community of knowledgeable, engaged, enlightened, well-informed, hard-working men and women just like you, all eager to see the Magnolia State grow and prosper. There may be some disagreement on how to get there, but the goal remains the same, for each Mississippian to reach their American dream. Thanks for listening and being a part of the conversation on SuperTalk Mississippi.